I'm here at Outlaws Boxing, where every fighter, whether they're boxing or MMA, they walk in here, they want to improve not only their skills in the ring, but they want to improve their overall health and stamina and everything. So, Brandon, what's a good drill to do?
I don't know, maybe aside from health and stamina, what we're talking about here is performance, right? And that's what I was having my fighters at the end of this Sunday working on, and performance via the method of using kettlebells, through the route of using kettlebells. And kettlebells is a great exercise because you're forced to use your body as a whole. You're forced to produce power and deal with momentum and start proximal and end distal and all that good stuff that can apply to any sport you want to. Us here at Outlaws, of course, applying it to boxing. But we went through an assortment of exercises, starting with the clean and the press. That was one where we're just taking a kettlebell, starting in between our feet, bringing it here into this clean position where it rests on my shoulder, taking another dip of my hips, now snapping it up over my head, bringing it back down on that reverse path, switching arms, bang, and then another dip of my hips. Boom.
Like a squat.
Kind of like a squat, and then not like a shoulder press. And that was what some of my new athletes were having problems with, is they just want to gut it out and get their little itty-bitty deltoid to do all this work. But we as athletes want to teach our entire body, if we can, if at all possible, to explode out, like I said, from proximal to distal. So that was what one of those exercises was. The other was called the snatch. And now all I do is I miss that middle portion on my shoulder, and I go from the ground up over my head using my leg power, using my hips. Bang! Snap it out, get this thing over my head, and you'd be surprised on how little arm and deltoid I'm using. It's really just to guide it up. Another cool exercise we were doing was the sumo raise. Legs are wide, toes are forward, heels are on the ground. I retrieve this kettlebell down here, and I bring it up all the way to my chin. Again, using my hips to start, and using my limbs, using my arms, using my legs on the end portion of the movement.
That's for your shoulders, right? The last drill you did?
No, and Ellie, any of these exercises I'm showing you, you cannot isolate one specific region in which I'm using. And that's the beauty of these, is that my whole body's working. So much muscle fiber is being activated. So much muscle mass is having to move, right? I just get a terrific response hormonally, muscle breakdown-wise.
Muscle memory.
And of course, neural connection-wise.
How do all these drills help me as a boxer?
Kind of like how I was explaining, in that you are teaching your body to explode. You're teaching your body to call upon many, many muscle fibers. You're teaching your body to start with the giant muscle groups and finish with the smaller muscle groups. And this, in any sport that I can think of, would be a benefit, and especially in the sport that we practice here, boxing.
I ask this question every time. I'm going to ask it one more time. Should I do heavy weights and 3 reps, or should I do light weights and do sets of 20?
And I'm going to answer you the way I do every time, Ellie, is that you should know yourself as an athlete. You should know what rep ranges and what weights are a benefit to you. You should know what you specifically you are training for, because that is just such an open-ended question that it can mean so many different things to so many different athletes.
Does this help you lose weight when you work with weights? Or do you gain weight because muscle weighs more than fat?
The population that I deal with, athletes, people who come to me in good shape, people that come to me, you know, without a lot of excess body fat, typically do not gain weight. And they don't lose any muscle mass or anything like that. All I'm really doing when it comes to the athletes that come to me is I'm showing them new avenues and new methods in which to use the body and the muscles they have and to tie everything together. Because a lot of times what happens is I'll get athletes that have come to me with a strong base of weightlifting, you know, for years and years and years. They've been doing, you know, chest on Tuesdays, back on Wednesdays, arms on Thursdays.
Old school.
And this has brought them to a certain point, and now I'm going to teach them what to do with all those muscles, all those exercises that they've been practicing for years and years. And what we do is it's the forest for the trees, right? Now I bring those all together. I don't deal with, typically with like obese people or people who have really never trained, in which they're going to gain a tremendous amount of muscle mass from this. So So I would say no with the populations I deal with.
So if I'm a pro fighter and I'm doing these drills, it's not going to affect my weight next time I go on a scale. It shouldn't.
No, and this is a huge worry that every boxer has, is that they're going to touch weights or start doing resistance program, and all of a sudden they're going to become Mr. Universe. It's not really how the body works, okay? That's everybody would be looking ripped and buff if that were the case. It's much more difficult to put on muscle mass, especially when you're practicing a sport like boxing that is so energy intensive, that requires so much calories to be proficient at. It just really doesn't lend itself to be a big muscular body type.
Last question. How many times a week should I do weightlifting if I'm a pro fighter or amateur?
Again, these are kind of like big cookie cutter questions that there's not cookie cutter answers for. Here, me personally, I probably do 6 to 8 different strength training sessions a week. You know, I said that to somebody the other day. They're like, "So you mean you do it every day?" I go, "Well, that kind of. You know, some days I'll do 2 different strength training exercises that have different goals. You know, maybe one will be for my explosive strength, and one will be for injury rehabilitation, or maybe one will be for speed, and one will be for power, or maybe, you know, even I'll go old school myself and throw in a legs day there, you know, to improve some lower body strength or something like that." But again, this is something that you and an educated person, or you with the knowledge of yourself, should figure out to know how many days a week to do and what kind of recovery period you need.
And one testament to your great successor, look at Ryan Meza. When he walked in here, he looked like Nicole Richie. And now, and now look at him.
That is the pot calling the kettle black right there, Ellie Sekbag.
Damn, Sekbag.
Jeez.
Nah, you all ripped now.
Do we want to turn this camera around, Mr. Sekbag?
I always do. There you have it. Stay tuned for ESPNReporting.com. I'm Ellie Sekbag reporting. What, you don't like my shirt?